Today we're going to talk about production planning. That's higher level only. That starts with something called the supply chain process. That's reasonably straightforward to understand. Company receives an order, sources the materials, then receives the raw materials, maybe stores it, manufactures the final product, again maybe stores it, transports the product to the customer, hopefully receives payment pretty promptly. That's reasonably straightforward to understand. Stock control is very, very important for businesses. They don't want to have too little and they don't want to have too much. For obvious reasons, if you've got too little, you maybe run out of stock, and that makes customers unhappy. If you've got too much, maybe you have to throw away lots and lots of unsellable stock, or maybe you have to sell that stock at a huge big discount, which maybe makes the shareholders very unhappy, or the manager very unhappy. So there's two methods we'll be looking at. One is just in time, one is just in case. Just in time encourages businesses to have as little stock as possible and receive orders very, very shortly after the order has been made. Convenience stores like Lawson's, there's a Lawson's 200 meters away from where I'm making this. Quite often when I go to Lawson's, there are boxes on the floor and the workers are quickly taking the yogurts and the Coca-Colas out of the boxes and putting them onto the shelves because there's no space for a back room in the Lawson's for them to store lots of stock, because obviously in a big city like Shanghai the rent is very, very expensive. So from Lawson's point of view, they want to be using as much of that space for actually selling rather than storing products. Okay, so just in time obviously requires a very, very efficient ordering system and delivery reliability. Lawson's probably has like a warehouse or distribution centre not far away from here, and all that pretty much happens every day is a van just tours around the local area making lots and lots of deliveries, probably based on the purchasing habits of people in each particular Lawson's, because it might be slightly different in different stores. Okay, but high stock levels do act as a cushion, especially in manufacturing. If workers go on strike and a company can't produce something, if say the shop keeps high levels of stock, then they're not going to be as effective if say the factory has gone on strike. Or if there's problems with the supplier receiving their own raw materials, or if there's a natural disaster. If there's a natural disaster and you're a car company, you can't really say receive 999 parts out of 1,000 to make the car if you're relying, say, on a part to come from Japan where maybe there's been an earthquake. So if you keep a high level of parts in stock, then that's not going to be as big an issue, as maybe it gives you time to source that stock from somewhere else. And that is just in case, which involves holding relatively high level of stock, just in case demand increases or there is maybe a problem with the supply chain. Okay, obviously if you hold higher levels of stock, you've got to maybe store that stock somewhere, which means you pay more in rent. And if you're selling things like bread or milk and you're holding that high levels of stock, you may have to eventually throw some of that away, which obviously you're throwing away basically money because you're not going to be able to sell it. Now, these are some of the phrases which we're going to look at in terms of a stock control chart, which we'll show you next. So the lead time basically is how long it takes for the stock to be delivered after it's been ordered. Buffer stock is the minimum stock level business plans to hold. The reorder level is at what point do you order new levels of stock. Reorder quantity is the amount of stock you order. Stock out is when you run out of stock, you've no more stock to sell. And usage patterns, obviously big businesses have lots and lots of computers which are closely monitoring how our spending patterns change. So for example, we would expect most convenience stores to maybe sell more ice creams and what have you in the summer. Maybe it's just slightly, maybe people consume more ice cream Saturdays and Sundays because maybe more people are not working. I have drawn this, my apologies. I've tried to keep this as simple as possible. This business, I don't know itself, but this business starts, so the week, or starts day 1 with 5 units. 5 is an easy number. On the horizontal axis, this is just days, so going from day 1 through to day 11, it sells 1 unit per day. Okay, so you can see how I've drawn this. I can just kind of stand over here and let you look at this. Alright, the reorder level is at 2. Okay, it takes 1 day to receive the stock, that's the lead time. The company, each time it orders something, orders 4. Okay, so you can see from day 1 through to day 4, it sells 1 per day. On day 4, they receive the 4 items. Then at the start of the 5th day, it sells 1. And then, oh my gosh, at the start of the following day, a customer comes in and buys all of the stock. Oh my gosh. Alright, so obviously what that means is we have the stock out situation. And because it takes 1 day to receive the stock, that means for 1 day, the business has no stock. So maybe another customer comes in and says, can I have this item? They can't get it. Maybe they go somewhere else. Maybe they never return. Okay, and then eventually the stock control chart goes back to normal. Okay, so that's relatively easy to understand. Now, what solutions could we say for the business? Well, maybe they could have a higher, sort of like a minimum stock level. So maybe the minimum stock level could increase to 4. But obviously, that would mean that the business is going to have to maybe have space to be able to keep the products. Maybe if it's a perishable product, maybe they're not always able to sell the products, and you may have to throw some away. Okay, maybe the business should reorder sooner. Instead of reordering when it's only got 2 items, maybe it should reorder when it's got 4 items. Okay, so those are all possible solutions. Capacity utilization, the example I've given here, the easiest one maybe to understand, has to do with the hotel. So the hotels, it has 200 rooms, 140 are being used. The capacity utilization is 70%. That's straightforward to understand. Obviously, something like a hotel will want its utilization rate to be as high as possible. So depending on the week, depending on the types of promotions which they use, they'll hopefully get as close as they can to the 100%. Obviously, if you're like a tourist destination, high season, they have very high prices, but maybe say 70% occupancy levels. Maybe the out of peak season, they have to reduce the prices by 2/3, but they still have 7% occupancy levels. So companies will vary what they do to try and make sure that they have relatively high occupancy levels or capacity utilization. If you're somebody like a hotel, maybe during the non-peak periods, obviously what they're going to do is that's when they're going to try and redevelop it and improve how the hotel looks. You're not going to probably do that during the peak season. That's when most of the profits are made. And finally, this is the productivity rate. So productivity crudely is calculated as outputs divided by inputs. You could say amount produced divided by most commonly the number of workers. So if we say 100 divided by 20, then the production would be like 5 units per worker. And one of the things companies quite often do is benchmark. So if one particular factory is a lot more productive than another factory, what will happen is that maybe the managers from the weaker factory will go to the stronger factory and find out, well, what are your secrets for your success? Okay, so in this example, you would see that the productivity at the American factory is higher than at the Chinese factory and the Thai factory. And that's quite a simple example. So 8,000 divided by 200 gives you 40, or 6,500 divided by 300 gives you 21.67. Okay, so hopefully that's helped you with that.